regarded as the first person narrator with third person perspectives. And the reason why the narrator is regarded as the first person narrator is based on how the narrator, him or herself, presents. On the bottom, on the first page, present as I, and we. And not, and most of the third person narrator in some stories, they don't use I to, if they're third person. But the reason why it also the narrator have third person perspective is based on how the narrator used pronouns such as they or he or it throughout the story. And at the same time, the narrator is also unreliable, and it is because of how the narrator at first tries to invite the readers to participate throughout this the start of this description here, the story here of how society is a very joyous society, and people are content with the things that takes place in the society throughout the festival of summer in Meniam. But when the narrator moves forward to the second page on the top, the narrator says, "Oh, miracle, but I wish I could describe it better. I wish I could convince you. Meniam sounds in my words like a city in a fairy tale, long ago and far away, once upon a time." Here it is so clear that the narrator tries to switch onto another tone of narrative, and it is really obvious of how the narrator is unreliable here, because first the narrator says, okay, the society is very joyous and the people are very content, but then the narrator says, I wish I could describe you better or convince you better or could describe it better. And how can I tell you here, again on the first page bottom, how can I tell you about the people of Meniam? But it seems as though at first the narrator kind of actually described what. And the effect of all this is how readers at first imagined the society as a joyous society where people are very content. But when the narrator said, okay, how can I tell you about the people of Meniam? And later on says, I wish I could convince you. Here the narrators might begin to imagine, okay, what is the narrator trying to hide, or what is the narrator trying to convince us or portray? And that's why the narrator is unreliable. And as says previously, how the narrator described or portrayed the society in Meniam, the Meniam city. The narrator also used strong adjectives. Here again, focusing on the first page, the narrators used adjectives such as they, the Meniam, they were vastly excited. And here of how the narrator tries to portray the sound of the bells into the great joyous clanging of the bells. Not just bell, the sound of the bell, but joyous clanging of the bells. And the effect of the narrator's use of the strong adjectives involves readers to picture the content that the narrator is trying to portray or trying to appeal to the reader's senses. Here, by mentioning or writing the great joyous clanging of the bells, the readers actually senses what the narrator is trying to appeal, like the sound of the bell here, joyous clanging of the bells. And again, previously the narrator is unreliable, and actually also used irony throughout the stories, based on how the narrator actually said that the society lives in a society where there's no monarchy and slavery. But moving on in throughout later, like the third page, it is written that from after all these very joyous society, sorry, it was on the second page, the narrator said, oh, do you believe? Do you accept the festival, the city, the joy? No? Then let me describe one more thing. In a basement under one of the beautiful public buildings of Meniam. And then later on, the narrator actually here tells the readers of that beneath all this happy or seemingly happy, content, joyous society where people are very content, lies a misery here. In the room a child is sitting. It could be a boy or a girl. It looks about 6, but actually is nearly 10. It is feeble-minded. Perhaps it was born defective, or perhaps it has become imbecile, through fear, malnutrition, and neglect. The narrator used it instead of her, the girl, or instead of the girl or the boy, or he, or she, or him, or her. The narrator used it instead. And the reason why the narrator used it is actually based on, could be based on how by using it when describing the child, the narrator actually puts that child as an object rather than the opposite of an object, and also sets a rhetoric question to the readers of why the narrator uses it instead of he or she here. And the effect of the narrator achieved by using it is, it actually shows how when the readers imagine, or then it shows how this society in the Meniam society actually needs happiness, and by needing and by wanting happiness, they put a person, a child, into that misery, into that room where the child is being locked with malnutrition, very young age. What we know so far of what we know of the child is that the child is around 10, and also seemed like the child was actually never like born in the cage itself, because of how I will scroll down a bit. I'm trying to remember the quote. Here it says, but the child who has not always lived in their tool room and can remember sunlight and its mother's voice sometimes speak. I will be good, it says. Please let me out. I'll be good. They never answer. It really shows how the society neglect the child in order to have the happiness and maintain the happiness in this society, as though it is a contract that the society's made, that a child has to, someone has to pay for their price, the price that they want, in order to have the happiness. They have to put someone into misery. And by the end of the story, we know that actually some people, they live Meniam. They walk ahead into darkness, it says, and they do not come back. The place they go towards is a place even less imaginable to most of us than the city. It's the city of happiness. I cannot describe it at all. It is possible that it does not exist, but seems to know where they're going, the ones who walk away from Meniam. The narrative says that the people that choose to live Meniam actually accept the fact that a child, a person, shouldn't be put into misery in order for them to have happiness, because it is each person's price to pay if they in order to gain the needs of happiness or pay for their own fortune. So that is also why some people regarding no age or they decide to leave the society, the Meniam society, where, and then it is written here that they live Meniam, they walk ahead into the darkness, because they're so used to a society where there's happiness, there's content, joys, society. But then if they choose to live this society, then for them it might be a new society where they have to pay for their own price and not putting someone else to pay for the price that they want. And that is why by the end here, the reader, the effect the narrative achieves or has is that the narrative teases us readers and left ambiguity here, because we as readers don't know what kind of society the people here walk into, based on all that we've read here. Thank you. That was it.